It started with a sound no guard was ever trained to ignore. Not a scream, not a cry for help. Just a quiet, trembling voice at the end of a hallway. "Camilla, I won't tell anyone." And yet it froze him, because it wasn't fear. It wasn't defiance. It was the sound of a child trying to protect the very person hurting her. Princess Charlotte had just seen something she wasn't supposed to. A hidden velvet pouch. A stolen heirloom. Jewels her great-grandmother once wore, now slipped into Camilla's handbag. And when she asked, just once, why, Camilla slapped her, hard, then again, and again, until the child backed against the panelling, breath shaking, voice cracking. "Camilla, I won't tell anyone." But someone did hear. From down the corridor, a royal guard broke formation, and when the new aides tried to block him, he didn't ask questions, he shoved past them. With the kind of precision that only comes from a battlefield. Now, before we show you what happened next, drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from. Tap like, hit subscribe, and make sure the bell icon is on. Because what happened in that chamber wasn't loyalty, it was abuse. And this time the guard didn't stay silent. The South Treasury passage was one of those corridors most people in the palace forgot existed. Tucked beneath the Western Archive loop and secured behind 2 layers of security glass, it rarely saw foot traffic outside of heritage officers, crown custodians, and the occasional military attaché verifying inventory signatures. And that was exactly why Sergeant Aldric Thorne had requested it. Some guards liked the fanfare. Aldric didn't. After 2 tours and 5 years on palace rotation, he preferred silent posts and clean lines. No tourists, no distractions, just marble, protocol, and time. His boots moved slow but steady across the polished stone floor, every step precisely aligned. His gloved hand hovered inches from the ceremonial sabre at his left hip, not out of paranoia, but habit. In the South Treasury passage, complacency didn't just risk breach, it risked legacy. Today's assignment was listed as routine, a rotational inspection of 6 sealed storage chambers, all logged as empty. No authorized visitors, no inventory activity, no exceptions. But as Aldric rounded the 3rd corridor bend, just past the crown seal etched into the vault glass, he spotted something that didn't belong. 2 aides, male, mid-30s, matching grey ties with gold-stitched lapels, Camilla's personal staff branding. They stood just outside the inventory room, marked ST14, backs to the door, chins lifted like guards, but without the presence. One shifted nervously, the other kept darting glances toward the hallway corners, clearly scanning for movement. Aldric didn't announce himself. He didn't need to. His uniform spoke louder than words. Scarlet tunic, gold buttons, the tall black bearskin hat of the Coldstream Guard. When he stepped into view, both aides straightened instantly. One gave a quick nod, too quick. "Private session," he said, gesturing awkwardly toward the door. "You're clear to continue your patrol, Sergeant." Aldric's eyes didn't leave them. Private session with whom? The second aide swallowed hard. Her Majesty the Queen Consort. That made no sense. Camilla had no clearance to be in the South Treasury wing unsupervised, not without written authorization and a heritage officer escort. This was the domain of custodial preservation, not public figures. Aldric's gaze flicked to their ID badges. Fresh issue. Both hires within the last 3 weeks. Neither bore the secondary black stripe clearance that would permit access to inventory rooms. Behind the door, a sound echoed, a faint metallic clink, like something heavy settling against velvet. Aldric shifted slightly. His voice remained even. "No sessions are scheduled in ST14 today. This wing is logged as inactive." The first aide's jaw tightened. Her Majesty requested privacy. The room was opened under her directive. "There are no such directives." A pause. Then another sound from inside. Not metal this time. A soft exhale. Then a rustle, like someone moving quickly. and trying to be quiet. Aldric's voice dropped. "Who is in the room?" The aides hesitated too long. "Just her," the second one said. "Alone." Aldric stepped forward once, not threatening, just forward. There was no such thing as a private session in a sealed Crown inventory vault, not without reason, and certainly not without oversight. The aide raised his palm, suddenly more nervous. "Please, Sergeant, it's been signed off. She just needs—" Another sound cut through the air. The unmistakable snap of a velvet box being closed too hard. Aldric didn't blink. He looked at the door once more, and then at the aides. Something was being moved that should not have been touched. And someone inside that room was lying about it. He didn't know how bad it was yet, but he was about to find out. Sergeant Aldric Thorne didn't move at first. He stood precisely 7 paces from the door to room ST-14, shoulders square, jaw set, eyes locked on the 2 aides who now stood rigid, but twitching. They weren't trained for this. That much was obvious. Their posture screamed panic. Their mouths opened, then closed again, as if hoping protocol would protect them from what was coming next. Then it happened. A sound from inside. Small, fast, sickening. A sharp crack, not metal this time, not wood. Skin, flesh against flesh. And then a gasp, high-pitched, feminine, tiny, followed by silence. As if someone had swallowed the pain before it could become a cry. Aldric's spine straightened as his entire body snapped into a new state. The kind of stillness trained soldiers know, not passive, but coiled. Inside the room a voice rose, furious in a way that had nothing to do with correction and everything to do with panic. "You shouldn't have been here. Do you understand me? You never saw anything." It was unmistakably Camilla. And then the voice that followed, torn at the edges, breathless and broken, trying to sound obedient even as it trembled. "Camilla, please, I won't tell anyone. I promise." Aldric's breath slowed to a near stop. That was not a child being corrected. That was a child being silenced. Another crack rang out, harder this time, and it echoed too cleanly off the glass-lined interior. A choked sob followed, short, shallow, swallowed. He didn't wait for clearance, and he didn't need confirmation. He was already reaching for the comm unit on his collar, but even before he could press the emergency channel, Camilla's voice exploded again. "Look at me! Look at me! You never speak of this, do you understand? You're nothing without this family, nothing!" And again, another sound, and not just the slap this time, a stumble, a shuffle, a gasp that turned into a half sob before it was cut off. Aldric's jaw clenched so tight, the muscle near his temple pulsed. He glanced at the aides. One of them had gone ghost white. The other stepped in, panicked. She's teaching her. It's misunderstanding, please." Aldric didn't respond. His hand was already at his sabre, not to draw it, but to remind them he wasn't a hall monitor. He was a soldier. From behind the door, Charlotte's voice returned, barely audible now. "Please don't. I didn't mean to. I thought it was just storage. I didn't know you were taking—" Camilla cut her off, vicious, frantic. "Shut your mouth! You're lucky I haven't called for discipline yet. Do you even understand rank?" The aide stepped forward fast, hand half raised to intercept the guard. "Sergeant, please, stand down!" Aldric didn't blink. "I heard a child struck." The aide fumbled. She's fine, you're not—" Then from the room, "Please stop, I won't tell." That voice broke, not in volume, but in shame. It was the voice of a child trying to promise away her own dignity just to stay safe. Aldric's blood ran hot under his skin. He turned his head slightly, just enough for both aides to see it coming. And that was when he moved. By the time Aldric reached for the door handle, both aides had begun to panic audibly. One grabbed his forearm. Desperation, not strategy. "Sergeant, stop! You don't understand. She's the Queen Consort." Aldric turned his head slightly, voice colder than protocol required. "And that is a child." Then he listened. He let the air speak. And the room beyond the door gave him everything. Not in screams, not in chaos, but in details, the kind only trained ears catch. There was movement, frantic, uneven, velvet scraping against leather, soft cases being unzipped, a string of small, irregular clinks, the distinctive weighty rattle of metal against metal, not modern, not industrial, but antique. He heard the flap of paper, the slow jigs of something being peeled back, and then Charlotte's voice again, faint, disoriented, trying to obey. "But those are mummies. She said they were locked forever. Why are they in your purse?" The next moment came like a thunderclap. Camilla's voice, not just harsh now, but unhinged. "You saw nothing! Do you understand? Nothing!" A dull thud, the sound of something hitting wood, then a stool toppling. Charlotte cried out, short, sharp, followed by laboured breathing as she tried to right herself. "I didn't mean to—" She whimpered. "The door was open. I thought it was empty. I just—" Camilla again, snarling. "You just made a mistake you'll regret. If you speak to anyone about this, anyone, your privileges, your position, your protection, gone. Do you understand what rank is?" Aldric stepped forward again, boots cutting clean against the stone. He had heard enough. But the voices kept coming. Camilla's lower now, furious through clenched teeth. "You kneel. You apologise. You never saw a damn thing." A shuffle. Charlotte trying to obey, and then her voice, broken with shame. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to look. I won't tell. I promise, please." A slap. Louder than before. Another sob. Aldric's entire body tightened. One of the aides tried to step between him and the door again. "You can't enter. Her Majesty gave strict orders." Aldric turned just slightly. "You are obstructing a Coldstream guard during a safeguarding breach. If you so much as breathe another instruction—" Charlotte cried out again, this time not a slap, but a strained squeal of pain. "Camilla, please, my wrist!" Aldric moved, hand to the latch, every muscle taut. The aides scrambled, but it was too late. The guard who had patrolled combat zones in Helmand Province didn't need a sanction. He needed a reason. And now he had it. The moment Aldric's hand touched the latch, the taller aide panicked outright. He stepped fully into Aldric's path, arms spread, not confident, just desperate. "Sergeant, I'm ordering you to stand down." "You don't have the authority to order a guard," Aldric said coldly. "Step aside." "She's the Queen Consort. This is classified." Aldric didn't answer. His gaze was already past them, focused on the reinforced door and what waited behind it. A child, crying, afraid. Bleeding, maybe? Worse, maybe. The shorter aide, voice shaking, tried a new tactic, reaching for the radio clipped to his jacket. "I have to report this. Guard is escalating. Guard is breaching protocol." Aldric's hand snapped out, not with fury but precision. His fingers wrapped the aide's wrist in a practiced grip, halting the radio mid-air. "No one touches a comm before I confirm the child's safety," he said, voice like ice on steel. The aide froze. Behind the door, a thud, then something scraped. A stool leg across tile. Charlotte's voice, hoarse, pleading. "Please stop. I won't tell. I swear, just don't." Aldric's eyes hardened, and he took a step forward. The tall aide stayed rooted in place, hands up now, visibly shaking. "You can't!" Aldric's voice dropped low, not angry, just final. "I heard a child cry out. That's all the clearance I need." The aide planted his feet, bracing. It was the wrong decision. Inside, another slap, followed by a scream. Not theatrical, not loud, just the kind that ended in someone covering their mouth. Aldric's restraint snapped. One hand shot forward, palm open, driving straight into the centre of the tall aide's chest. The blow wasn't brutal, but it was military clean, driving the man backwards with enough force to send him stumbling into the side panel of the corridor, wind knocked from his lungs. The other aide lunged instinctively. Aldric shifted, pivoted, caught the wrist mid-arc, rotated, trapped the joint against his forearm. Then, with barely a motion, folded the man forward and dropped him to one knee. A soft grunt, no shout, no resistance left. The entire altercation took less than 6 seconds. Aldric exhaled once, then stepped forward, just 3 paces, and slammed his shoulder into the door. The lock released with a mechanical click, Palace Override Protocol for internal emergency access. The heavy oak swung open with a hiss. And what he saw on the other side was worse than he expected. The door hadn't even finished swinging open before Aldric stepped through it. He didn't barge. He advanced, silent, focused, 1 pace at a time, as if walking into a live detonation site. Inside, the air was too still, too clean. A central table sat beneath a ceiling fixture, its velvet cover peeled halfway back. Atop it, an open purse. Not just any purse, but Camilla's cream-coloured croc-embossed clutch. And inside, nestled with careless elegance, were 4 illegal truths: a sapphire tiara, 2 brooches, a thin-ankled bracelet with emerald insets, and a folded royal property ledger page, its lower signature line scratched out. On the other side of the room, Charlotte, cornered, pressed against the archival cabinet, legs trembling, back against mahogany. One cheek was pink with raised swelling. Her eyes, red, glassy, were wide with the silent calculation of a child trying to figure out how to make herself smaller. Camilla stood over her, one hand still clamped around her wrist. Her grip was too tight, knuckles white, arm locked. She wasn't teaching. She was containing. "You're a future royal," she hissed. "You protect the crown, including me. You don't question hierarchy. You don't squeal." Charlotte's voice barely escaped. "Please stop. I promise I won't tell. I'm sorry." That's when Aldric spoke. Not loud, not dramatic, just loud enough to kill the silence. "You will remove your hand from the princess. Now!" Camilla spun like a trap, springing too late. Her eyes darted between Aldric's face and the door behind him. He didn't move, and he didn't need to. Her grip faltered, not from guilt, from fear. "Aldric," she said, voice suddenly calm, syrup thick with false poise. "What an unfortunate misunderstanding. We were rehearsing something private, a legacy moment, training." Aldric's eyes never left her hand. "You are physically restraining a 10-year-old child inside a restricted inventory room filled with unlogged crown property." Camilla's jaw twitched. Charlotte whimpered again, so softly only Aldric heard it. The girl's wrist shifted slightly, the skin beneath Camilla's grip a deep, angry red. "I asked you once," Aldric said flatly. "I won't ask again." Camilla's fingers twitched, then released. Charlotte recoiled instinctively, pressing her injured wrist to her chest. Camilla took a step back, smoothing her coat, adopting the tired aristocrat posture of someone pretending to be inconvenienced. "She stumbled in. I was scolding her, yes, but you must understand the context." Aldric knelt beside Charlotte, gently touching her shoulder. "Are you injured, ma'am?" Charlotte shook her head, too fast, too desperate, but her bottom lip quivered. She whispered, "I didn't mean to walk in. I didn't know she was taking anything. I just thought—" She trailed off. Aldric stood, slowly, 1 step at a time. He turned to Camilla, eyes like steel drawn from the scabbard. "You struck her, you silenced her, and you used her fear to protect yourself." Camilla's face lost its colour. Aldric's voice dropped even lower. "This isn't protocol. This is obstruction." Behind him the aides groaned softly, one still crumpled near the corridor, the other trying to sit up. Aldric didn't look back. His attention was exactly where it needed to be. On the room, on the child, and on the woman who thought no one would dare enter. For a moment, no one in the room breathed. Aldric's presence altered the air itself, an invisible barrier between Charlotte and the woman who had cornered her. The fluorescent light above flickered once, humming faintly, as if the room itself recoiled from what had been happening inside it. Camilla moved first, a slow, calculated step back, pulling her coat into place with the theatrical refinement of someone used to cameras. even in a room where there were none. "A misunderstanding," she repeated tightly. "The girl startled me. I may have reacted too sharply, but there was no harm intended." Aldric didn't acknowledge her words. He walked toward the central table, his boots soft against the archival carpeting, eyes scanning the items laid out like evidence waiting for a case file. The sapphire tiara, 2 brooches, one bearing the late Queen's dove insignia, the other a private gift, never intended to leave the royal collection. And the bracelet. Aldric had seen that bracelet before. It was listed in the restricted ledger he signed past weekly during treasury audits. A piece valued not for its jewels, but for the note attached, belonged to Her Majesty during her accession year. Non-transferable, non-display, non-export. Yet here it sat, half wrapped in tissue. Beside it, the ledger page folded, creased, lower signature lines scraped raw, as though someone had taken a nail, or the edge of a ring, to erase the heritage officer's mark. Charlotte's gaze followed Aldric's. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. I just wanted to see what room it was," she whispered. "The door was open a little. I didn't know she was putting things in her purse." Camilla snapped immediately. "Be quiet!" Charlotte flinched so hard the back of her head tapped the cabinet. Aldric turned. Just his head. But the way he did it, the stillness, the precision, made Camilla's breath catch. He spoke quietly. "Do not address her in that tone again." Camilla's lips parted in outrage. "Sergeant Thorne, you will remember your place." "I am." His eyes locked onto hers. "And you will remember yours." Camilla inhaled sharply, but he stepped toward her before she could speak. "You struck a minor royal," Aldric said, "inside a classified inventory room, while in possession of unauthorized crown property. That is not correction. That is not protocol. That is not instruction." His voice sharpened, not raised, but honed, like a blade brought to a whetstone. "That is coercion and a crime." Camilla's composure cracked. No. She misunderstood what she saw. I was merely training her. She must learn to protect. Aldric cut across her. "To protect what? Your theft?" Her face drained of blood. Charlotte whimpered and shrank behind him, instinctively stepping closer to the one figure in the room who hadn't raised a hand. Camilla saw it, and panic flashed behind her eyes. "Don't you dare listen to her," she spat. "Children exaggerate. She opened the wrong door. She startled me, that's all." Aldric's expression didn't change. "You hit her so hard, she dropped to the floor." Charlotte's breath hitched. Camilla's mask shattered. "I had to make sure she understood rank. She cannot go tattling to Catherine about every little thing she thinks she sees. The monarchy depends on order, on loyalty, on fear?" Aldric asked softly. Camilla froze. "You grabbed her wrist," he continued. "You ordered her to kneel. You silenced her with violence, and you demanded she never speak of what she witnessed." He stepped closer, one slow, deliberate stride. "You told a 10-year-old child she was nothing without this family." Camilla's chest rose sharply, indignation strangled by the weight of consequence. "That is the language of a tyrant," Aldric said. "Not shouted, not spat, just spoken like a truth that had nowhere left to hide." Charlotte, shaking, whispered behind him, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to open the door. I thought it was storage." Aldric turned just slightly. "You did nothing wrong, ma'am." Camilla flinched at the title. A soldier had just chosen his side, and it wasn't hers. Camilla adjusted her coat like it would cover everything, the bruises she left behind, the crimes she tried to hide, and the fact that for the first time in a very long time she had been caught. But Aldric Thorne didn't flinch. He stood beside Princess Charlotte like a wall built out of posture and protocol, not blinking even when Camilla's voice returned, smoothed now, fake warm. "Sergeant," she began, "let's not escalate a misunderstanding. We were rehearsing a symbolic presentation for the archive committee. The princess misread my instructions." Aldric said nothing. He simply scanned the room again. The tiara, the brooches, the bracelet, the forged document, the open purse, the red handprint still ghosted across Charlotte's cheek, the grip marks on her wrist. Camilla took a step forward, her voice quieter, coaxing. She's young. Sometimes she fabricates emotion. I scolded her, yes, but lightly. The door opened unexpectedly. She panicked. I had to discipline quickly before she ran off in a fluster. Charlotte's voice rose just above a whisper. I didn't panic. You hit me. Aldric didn't move. Camilla smiled like a viper. Darling, you tripped. You frightened me. I was only protecting the collection. Aldric spoke for the first time since she started spinning. By stuffing it into your personal purse? Camilla froze. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was surgical. Charlotte took a half step back. She wasn't crying anymore, just trembling. Her chin still quivered, but her eyes stayed fixed on Camilla now, as if some part of her, small but rising, wasn't afraid anymore. Camilla tried to redirect. Her words came faster now. She wandered in while I was sorting archive pieces for an approved presentation. I was going to alert Heritage staff, but she interrupted. I reacted emotionally. It wasn't ideal, but let's not pretend this is anything more than a scolding. Aldric stepped forward once. One step. Enough to close the space between him and Camilla. Enough to remind her that the room no longer belonged to her. That document on the table, he said quietly, has a signature removed. Camilla's face twitched. That bracelet, he continued, is non-transferable by custodial statute. Its relocation is a criminal breach. The tiara hasn't been cleared from glass case retention since the late Queen's passing. Her breathing faltered. And the child you struck? He glanced back at Charlotte. She walked in on you transferring illegal property. You silenced her with violence. You threatened her into obedience. And now you're lying in the presence of a royal guard. Camilla's voice cracked. You don't understand what she was doing. She was mocking me. I had to reassert. Enough. Aldric's voice didn't rise, and it didn't need to. She's 10, and you're terrified because she saw the truth. Camilla's mouth opened, closed. She turned to Charlotte again, trying to repair what she shattered. But Charlotte backed up, behind Aldric. She didn't speak. But the shift said everything. And Camilla, queen consort or not, had never looked smaller. The door hadn't even fully shut behind Aldric when the click of heels echoed from the corridor. Not rushed, not chaotic, just precise. Controlled. Like a woman walking not into a room, but into judgment. Catherine entered. She didn't bring aids. She didn't bring words. She brought eyes that scanned everything in a single sweep. The tiara in Camilla's purse. The unsigned ledger on the table. The aides still groaning behind the guard. And Charlotte, standing behind Aldric, her face blotched with tears, a welt forming on her cheek, and her little hands wrapped tightly around her wrist, like she wasn't sure it still belonged to her. Everything in Catherine's expression changed at once. Not loudly, but catastrophically. Who touched her? She asked. Her voice wasn't trembling, and it wasn't raised, but it carried the weight of a crown and the fire of a mother who had seen enough. Camilla tried to speak. Catherine, you must listen. She walked in at the wrong time. She misinterpreted. Catherine ignored her entirely. She crouched in front of Charlotte, kneeling without a second's thought. Her coat pooled around her heels, but she didn't flinch. Charlotte's voice cracked like porcelain. I didn't mean to. I opened the door and saw her putting the bracelet in her purse, and I said I'd tell you. And then she didn't finish. Catherine's hand reached up gently, just fingertips, touching the side of Charlotte's cheek, with a kind of tenderness that made even Aldric look away for a moment. She hit you? Catherine asked, not needing the answer. Charlotte only nodded. Camilla tried again, stepping forward. She was trespassing. It's a misunderstanding. I was performing a private reassessment of archived property. You were smuggling royal jewellery, Catherine said coldly, rising to her feet, and you assaulted a child to cover it up. Camilla's face hardened. How dare you accuse me? I'm not accusing, Catherine said. She stepped closer. I'm observing. Camilla's voice wavered, trying to cling to formality. You forget who you're speaking to. No, Catherine replied. I remember exactly who I'm speaking to. Her gaze flicked to Aldric, and so does he. Camilla turned to him in desperation, but Aldric simply nodded once, slowly. Charlotte took a step toward Catherine and buried her face against her coat. That was the moment. Everything before had been built up, but this was the truth snapping open like a fracture line across marble, no longer hidden, no longer whispered, and definitely no longer protected by rank. Camilla took one shaky step backward, but Catherine wasn't done. You used your title to gain access to a restricted wing. You brought aids with no clearance, you removed sealed property, you hit my daughter. And then you told her she was nothing without you. Camilla opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Catherine didn't wait for another excuse. She turned to Aldric. Has royal security been alerted? They're on their way, he said. Good, she said. She doesn't leave this wing. And with that, she turned back to Charlotte. Soft again, protective. Let's get you out of here. But Charlotte, still gripping her mother's coat, whispered, Will I be in trouble? Catherine knelt again. No, she said, you're not the one who should be afraid. The air in the room felt heavier now. Charlotte stood silently beside her mother, still holding tight to the inside fold of Catherine's coat, her wrist swollen, her cheeks blotched red. Camilla hadn't moved. Her jaw clenched, her hands twitching in small circles by her side, like she couldn't decide whether to defend herself or disappear. Then came the footsteps. Not rushed, not dramatic, just deliberate. The kind of footfalls that don't ask for attention. They command it. Prince William entered the room with two senior royal security officers in tow. No words, no salutes, no pageantry. His gaze swept across the scene. The open purse with crown property inside. The inventory sheet with the scraped-off signature. The unconscious aide slumped beside the entryway. The second one groaning, curled against the skirting board. Camilla pale, lips bloodless, posture cracked. Aldric, unmoving, centred, standing beside the girl he had protected. And Charlotte, tucked behind Catherine, silent, her little hands curled in pain. William's expression didn't change. He simply looked at Aldric and said, Report! Aldric spoke clearly. No embellishment, no hesitation. Security breach in the South Treasury passage. 2 unauthorized aides granted Queen Consort Camilla entry to room ST-14. I observed behaviour consistent with unauthorized removal of protected items from the Crown inventory. A bracelet listed under permanent archive, 2 brooches and a tiara. A ledger document was discovered with a removed signature. Princess Charlotte was present in the room, unauthorized, likely unplanned. Witnessed the removal. Physical assault occurred following her objection. William's eyes didn't flinch. Extent of force? Multiple open-handed strikes, wrist grip, attempted verbal coercion. Phrases included, "You are nothing without this family," and "You never speak of this." Charlotte's eyes darted upward, but William was already turning to her, crouching gently. No drama, no theatrics. He looked her directly in the eyes. "Did she hurt you?" he asked softly. Charlotte nodded. She told me I'd lose everything if I spoke. Are you hurt now?" She looked down at her wrist, then back up. "A little, but I'm okay now." He nodded, then stood, turned to Camilla. His voice was quiet, but final. "You struck a child to protect a crime." Camilla tried to find her voice. "She wasn't supposed to be here. She walked in. She overreacted." "Stop!" William didn't shout. but the silence that followed was like a courtroom waiting for sentencing. He turned to the two security officers. Effective immediately, detain Queen Consort Camilla for formal investigation. Camilla gasped. You can't be serious. William continued without looking at her. Her access to all restricted wings is revoked. A full audit of archival inventory will be conducted within the next 24 hours. No unsupervised contact with Princess Charlotte ever again. William, you covered a theft with a child's blood, he said coldly. You are not above accountability. Camilla took a trembling breath, trying to compose herself. I am the Queen Consort. I serve the legacy of this monarchy. No, William interrupted. You exploited it, and you did it to a child. He turned to Aldric and nodded once. You did the right thing. Then to the officers, take her. The two men flanked Camilla. For the first time all day, she didn't have a comeback. She simply stood there, frozen in disbelief, as the guards escorted her toward the door. Charlotte didn't watch. She turned away and pressed herself into Catherine's side, and the moment Camilla was gone, the air lightened just a little. The marble floor still held scuff marks from the scuffle. A smear of one aide's boot polish, a faint blood droplet from another's broken nose, and the lingering smell of Camilla's perfume, cloying, sharp, like something trying too hard to assert itself. But the only footsteps now were measured and slow. Sergeant Aldric Thorne walked behind the small cluster, Catherine leading Princess Charlotte, flanked gently by one of the royal aides, not the kind that wore suits, but the kind that had watched children grow up behind palace doors, someone trusted. Charlotte clutched a folded flannel to her wrist now, something improvised from a supply cabinet. Her eyes didn't leave the floor, but she stayed close to Catherine's side, not hiding anymore, just walking. Aldric said nothing. He didn't need to. They passed through the outer antechamber where the Queen's guard stood posted again, formal, restored, silent. A few turned their eyes subtly to him. A nod. A flick of acknowledgement. They had heard the commotion, seen the aftermath. No one stopped him. No one asked for an explanation, because everyone knew what kind of noise gets made when a man stops pretending protocol is more important than a child. They reached the inner courtyard. Afternoon sun slanted low across the flagstones, catching in the gold thread of Charlotte's dress hem. She paused once before the final door, then turned her head, not to her mother, not to Catherine, to Aldric. She didn't say thank you. She didn't need to. She looked at him for 2 seconds too long. And Aldric? He gave the smallest nod in return, the kind of nod that says, I heard. The kind that means, you're safe now. Catherine opened the door. The child stepped through, and behind them, Sergeant Aldric Thorne turned alone, back into the heart of the palace, back into silence, back to duty. And the door shut quietly behind him. Should the Queen Consort ever be above accountability? What would you have done if you overheard what Charlotte said? And do you think the guard should face consequences for breaking protocol to intervene? Drop your answers in the comments. We read every one. While you're here, tap the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss tomorrow's story. And if this video moved you, share it with someone who still believes in doing the right thing, even when it's not allowed. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, with a brand new video.